So it's going to be interesting because Ava decided not to go to sleep, and I'm looking at her right now, just flipping and flopping.
Flipping and flopping. Flipping floppers.
Stands up. She's not crying, so.
Okay, yeah. So we're weaning Ava off of the bottle, the nighttime bottle, and we decided we picked tonight to be the first time to try it. Why not?
Oh my gosh.
So Nicole may have to leave at some point to go take care of Ava.
Diet Coke and a glass of crap.
This is just, look at the schmutz floating in it.
Yeah. So our friend Brian Ibbett loves hard cider.
Yeah, he does.
So I bought like this huge case of hard cider for him, and
is it supposed to have floaties in there?
I guess. It's apple.
Is that going to make me sick?
No.
I don't do hard cider. Well, I had a beer. That was my prep work for the show. And now I've got this hard cider here, and it's like big boy apple juice.
I don't like apple juice, so I just decided.
Nicole's having a Diet Coke straight up, baby.
Have a Diet Coke. I'm going to treat myself because I don't drink soda normally.
So, hey, happy Friday, everybody. It is Friday Live, and it's Friday Live PM. That's why I'm drinking garbage apple juice.
I know. Some people are like, I'm disappointed in you, Nicole, drinking Diet Coke. I know. I don't drink it regularly. I think that's the key to soda. Don't drink it every day.
Yeah.
So,
we don't drink, we try not to.
Yeah.
Try not to drink anything soda-y.
Well, it's. I don't even drink the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get tired of it by the
We used to drink soda pretty frequently.
Yeah, we were.
Soda's just one of those things, if you can completely remove that out of your diet, you are 100% better off. Like, there's nothing good that comes from soda.
Nothing.
But it tastes good. All right. So it's Friday Live. We're here to talk about woodworking and stuff.
And things.
And I've actually only got 5 questions here, so we're going to be leaning on the chat room to help us out with live questions. And just a couple quick things. I want to thank some folks who helped us out on Patreon, patreon.com/woodtalk. My dog's having some sort of fit over there.
Is she?
I think she tripped over a box.
Okay.
We want to thank John McDaniel, Brian Stainfield, Robert Randolph, and Steve Colburn for helping us out. They went over to patreon.com/woodwhisper. And I think someone brought this to my attention. I think I just did it earlier. I'm so in the habit of saying patreon.com/woodtalk that I say that on this show. So it's patreon.com/woodwhisper. And those people helped us out. And if you want to do that too, we'll mention your name at the top of the show. And we'll give you our thanks. We'll say thank you. Over and over. Thanks. We also want to make a quick announcement about a sale that we're having, a guild project sale. So today is the first of many weeks, and we went through and we are doing 1 guild project per week. It'll be on sale for the weekend only. You have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get the sale 30% off, and we are going to go through the whole catalog. We actually aren't going to hit them all.
I was thinking we were going to try to hit every single one, but we ran out of weeks.
Believe it or not, between now and Christmas, 1 per week, we have too many guild projects to actually populate those days. We'd have to go well into January, which is kind of cool. It's hard to believe that we have that many projects in the guild at this point. But anyway, 30% off. You could stock up your archive and fill out your catalog a little bit, and it's a great deal, 30% off.
Sorry. It's Diet Coke.
Nicole,
I'm sorry.
That's rude. Can someone just answer the question on hard cider? Is it okay to drink it if it has floating shit in it?
Stuff.
I just said the S word.
That is.
It's a PM show.
What is it? Angry Orchard?
It's an Angry Orchard.
Yeah.
I mean, apple cider tends to have floaty stuff in it, like the good cider. So why not hard cider?
Cider Teddy.
But if someone can just confirm that for me, that'd be great. I don't want to drink poop.
Man, I'm very burpy.
That's what it is. It's apple poop.
Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Oh, there it is. Okay, before we start with some questions here, I got a little bit of a unboxing to do. Yeah. Should I do this? Here, let's.
Who's this from?
Eagle America.
Oh, Eagle America.
MLCS.
People are saying it's fine.
Is it?
Way.
Okay.
Yeah. Drink it. Suck it up. Drink
what
it.
What about the horrible taste? Is that okay? Or should I just suck that up as well? Okay, so our good friends at Eagle America sent us a little care package.
Someone has to with Comp Norm Abrams, a free guild project. Yeah.
No, he's going to pay full price. Because guess what? When I ordered plans, I had to pay full price. I paid like $25 for a plan for a stupid wagon. No, seriously? I think Norm has much better things to do with his life than watch guild projects.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from the folks at Eagle America. I believe this is officially an MLCS product.
Oh, okay.
Right, those are the same company.
Yeah.
You guys know what this is? Who can name what this is? I'm going to tell you what it is. It's a handheld spindle sander. So they sent me this because they know my love of curves. They know how much I use my oscillating spindle sander. And this bad boy is handheld, which is great because if you have larger projects that are just like really not feasible to take to the oscillating spindle sander, you can just grab this guy and go around your project. Porter Cable, that was actually a very realistic sound effect. Yeah. Porter Cable, I believe, makes one like this. I don't know if it's still in the market. Every time I see them, they look like they're really old, so I'm not sure. But Porter Cable is the only one that I can think of that makes this, and this is a really handy tool. So I'm super excited to try this out. I'm gonna plug it in right now, Nicole.
Okay.
I'm gonna sand this cardboard. I'm just kidding. But I do want to plug it in. I just want to hear it. You guys ready? People say I never do demos on Friday Live. Well, watch this. Where's the on button?
Okay, you're gonna wake the baby up.
That's high RPM. She can't hear that. That's a really high RPM. Nice. So it actually is oscillating and spinning.
Sweet.
It's moving up and down and spinning. So this is pretty cool. You know, what I find interesting though, one of the few products I've ever held in my hands that did not like very proudly and loudly tell you who made it.
Yeah.
All it says right here is model 9557 handheld spindle sander, and it doesn't say anything about the brand. That's interesting.
Is it a house brand?
It's almost a Ryobi color. Yeah. Well, I think MLCS must make it.
There you go.
I think it's their product. I could be wrong, but you'll probably see that showing up because that is a tool that someone like me who loves to make curves can certainly use. So there you go, a little unboxing for you.
Cool. Thank you,
yeah,
Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch at Eagle America.
Let's see.
So hit me with a question while I'm moving things around.
I got one. I have a super chat from Benjamin. It says, thanks for doing this, even when overwhelmed, overworked, and when you're quite busy. These are awesome, happy times for that help more than you always know. What?
He's just trying to confuse you with words.
Thanks, Ben.
You know Ben and his fancy words. Thank you so much. And I don't know if anyone heard the live Woodtalk show today. It won't be released till Monday. But we talked about some scheduling changes and things that I had to do in order to make room in my schedule. I'll be honest, now we're talking to the Friday Live crowd, which I'm sure has some overlap with Woodtalk. But this is one of the things that's eating up a portion of my schedule that it requires me to do something else because, or to take something away because we are completely consuming a good portion of my Friday with Friday Live.
I remember a number of years ago, a few of our dear friends, fans, viewers were like, Marc's burning the candle at both ends.
And doing that since 2007 probably?
Yeah, and I think it's well, we just keep adding stuff.
That's the problem. You keep adding, and you never take anything away. That's a great way to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I was like this close to just totally stopping Woodtalk. Nicole was okay with it.
I'm fine with it.
Talked to my buddy John.
I would love to see more free projects on the free site. I mean,
that's kind of what it comes down to.
You would have 4 days of the month.
4 days a month back in my pocket to make videos. But at the same time, Woodtalk has become its own beast and has its own audience, and it's just as important to us as it is, to Shannon and Matt, and it just didn't feel right to completely take it away. It's a gnat. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of backed it down to a more traditional weekly schedule and something that hopefully is more sustainable. And you know what? It's been over 10 years since we've been doing that show. Not many podcasts last that long. I was talking to John about it. He's like, you know what the average corporate America lifespan is for an employee is 3 years.
Wow.
Not that it's the same thing, but it's a question of commitment. I don't know. Why are we talking about Woodtalk now?
So Joshua Randit wants to give you an idea for a future project, an end table / dog crate. We don't need a dog crate. That's the problem.
I don't need a dog crate. My big fat dog wouldn't go in there. The only way she'd go in there is if there was a bag of Doritos on the inside. She's like, all right, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could. You know what would happen if I put up a dog crate video? I would deal with hundreds of people telling me how cruel it is to put a dog in a crate.
Probably, yeah.
Not that I feel that way. I think a dog crate personally is a great training tool for a dog, and some of them get so comfortable that it's like their little home.
Yeah.
If used properly, there's nothing inhumane about a crate. But like the same way that when I post a picture of me barbecuing something, there's always one a-hole that wants to let me know how terrible I am because I'm eating meat.
Yeah.
You know, so it would be one of those things.
Drew Steele wants to know, is there a trick to drilling hold-fast holes so the hold-fast works?
Well, I just drilled mine. You know, I've heard of people having problems. I think I got lucky with my holdfast that I don't have these issues. If you're not familiar, folks, this is a holdfast. The idea is you've got these 3/4 inch holes in the workbench. You slide this puppy down, and then if you have something you want to clamp down, here's a piece of wood. Where's my hammer? So all you have to do is give it a good hit. It flexes just enough. There's enough pressure in there and friction in that hole that this thing, well, it doesn't want to move. Most of the time, you give it a couple of whacks, you'll move your workbench before you move this thing. To release it, then you just give it a tap on the back. It comes back out. So holdfast, really old technology, and one of the best work holding methods on a workbench. The trick is making sure that the hole is the right dimension, and also you have to be concerned about the depth, so the thickness of the workbench. Now, I do not profess to know the specifics of all this. People like Chris Schwarz, even my buddy Shannon at Renaissance Woodworker might be better people to ask about the diameter of the hole in relationship to the diameter of the post, as well as how deep it has to go into your bench top. These are things that I'm not 100% sure. I can tell you that a 4-inch top with a slightly oversized hole, that hole looks to be oversized by about, well, let's not say slightly, it's about a 1/16 of an inch oversized. That gives me everything I need to get the job done. So I've heard of people sort of boring the back end. So if you're having trouble gripping, sometimes you reduce the contact area by drilling from the bottom in with like a Forstner bit to essentially alleviate some of that material from contacting the bottom portion of the post, and then it grips. So if I were trying to figure this out, I would have to grab a block of wood and drill some holes and experiment, because I don't know off the top of my head, but certainly smarter people than me have figured all this out at some point. Should I do a question here?
Yeah. I'm just grabbing questions.
All right, pay attention.
I'm listening.
Because this is for you. Mike Shahada says, morning, Wood Whisperers. It's evening, actually. Can't get enough of you guys. Great content. Thank you. Ideas and humor. As we all may or may not know, Nicole was a great backbone to support the household while you, Mr. Wood Whisperer, built the foundation of your current empire. So I am just a curious guy. Want to know, what was her former occupation, if you don't mind sharing? This chick holds some awesome skills. How do you like that? You were called a chick.
Hippie chick.
Holds some awesome skills with everything she handles. Now, including you, Mr. Wood Whisperer. Thanks, friends. Happy Friday. Well, happy Friday, Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
You want to take this, Nicole?
Yeah. So, a lot of people still think I do all of the web work on the website, and that's not the case at all. John Funk is our go-to guy. He's amazing, and we wouldn't be where we are, honestly, I don't think, without him.
Well, we might be doing okay, but we would not look even remotely as professional as we look, as organized as we look. Like, John makes us look good.
Yeah, so for 14 years, I worked for a company that made software for colleges and universities. And I traveled. I worked 6 years in services, so I trained. I was a trainer for all kinds of different software. End user, I even taught the IT Usually guys. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was usually teaching
I
was usually teaching older men.
So it's a lot like woodworking.
Yeah.
It's usually a older demographic.
Not always.
And all male.
But usually.
Yeah.
But so I did a lot of training for 6 years, and then I moved over into programming, where I did pretty much everything from custom work to conversions from old systems to our system. And then I moved over into sales, where I took all of that knowledge and then I would sell the software. I would be like the forefront for the salespeople. I wasn't a salesperson. I was just telling people how the software worked.
You're almost like a technical sales.
Yeah, I was technically a technical engineer. Yeah, I think that was my title. Senior technical engineer.
Nicole's a smart cookie.
Yeah, so
she knows what she's doing.
But I've always loved technology. I taught myself HTML back in, I guess it was 95.
When Nicole and I met, I actually had a room for rent in San Diego, and
I had my own website.
She had her own website, and we met on a roommate. It was roommateclick.com, right? Is that site even around anymore?
It is. I think it is.
So it was a roommate matching site. Now, mind you, this is what, 2000?
This is early. 2000. This is 19. Yeah, it was like 99, 2000.
Right. So online dating hadn't really solidified. You might meet some people in chat rooms. So it wasn't about dating. It was truly a roommate matching site where you list your compatibilities, your habits, and each person fills the survey out, and then they see who are you most compatible with. So we were like 10 out of 10 compatible as far as expectations for a roommate.
Like leaving food in the refrigerator.
Like washing dishes or
loud noises.
Do you have to label everything in the fridge? What if the guy leaves the seat up? Things like that.
Yeah, right.
So we had a really good match. She was looking for an apartment, and we were in Del Mar, California at the time. And I had a room ready to go, and she was cute. She sent me a picture, and she goes, she was so proud. It was almost like, it wasn't a GeoCities site, but it was in that time frame, right?
Yes.
So she had made this. It was a tripod site?
I paid for the tripod.
But it's got pictures of her and her friends on there. She's got all these little awards.
I had a ton of awards for my. This is the time where you got awards.
And music and songs, and she was so happy with herself.
I had my own little award that I used to give out. It was called Nikki's. Worlds of. The site was called Nikki's Worlds of Sights and Sounds.
So awesome! It was really good times. You could see where the true genius behind the Wood Whisperer came from.
I've always loved to just tinker on the web and build websites and try to make things happen, and that's kind of.
Meanwhile, when I was like, this little video thing that I started, I think I'm going to need a website. And she goes, well, figure it out.
No, I told you about WordPress.
Right, but I had to figure it out. It wasn't like you jumped in and made it for me. I don't have time. I'm on the road. Figure it out. So anyway, that's Nicole's history.
It's a long story of me. But yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Okay, John Schmidt. Have you ever gotten a new sander and it just seemed like a thing had a mind of its own? I got a Festool Pro 5 sander recently, ordered almost like a year ago. You guys remember that, the $99 Festool sander? He says, I'm used to using a red, aka cheap 5-inch sander, and it just seems that the Pro 5 wants to wander all over the place. Is it possible that I'm just not used to a good quality sander and I'm putting too much pressure down? Because I used to have to force the cheap one to work rather than letting the tool do the job. That's certainly a possibility, but I've heard this before, and I've actually heard this complaint about that specific sander. In my opinion, and from my experience, a sander that wants to walk on you and fight you, there's two things happening potentially. One is a very uneven surface. If you have a non-flat surface, things are undulating and wavy, the sander can want to walk, and it might feel like it's pulling on you. That's if the surface is at fault. The other thing is if there is a sander that has a problem, and either it's poorly made or it has some kind of inherent flaw or a manufacturing defect that may cause it to do that as well. In your case with a brand new sander, if you are sure that the work you're sanding, grab a piece of plywood, and if you're sure that the work you're sanding is flat, there might be an issue with the sander. And I am almost positive, maybe it was the Guild Group, but I'm almost positive someone else has that sander and had a similar problem with it. And it turned out that it was something they replaced and it works just fine now. So when I use my sanders, I've got the Festool ETS line of 6-inch sanders. I almost never have that problem. I can pretty much grab the top of the sander with a couple of fingers and guide it around, and it works just fine. I could even put my whole palm and put a little pressure, and it still works fine and doesn't seem to want to travel on me. So that's a red flag. That sounds like a problem.
Hey, we should say hi to Jim and Maha.
Jim and Maha.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Maha.
Jim and Maha are neighbors.
We love them.
They said that they were going to watch the show tonight.
They might be.
Maha subtly let me know that I'm incredibly boring in person. She's like, because we eat dinner with them all the time. We hang out at their house and they hang out here. But she always reminds me, she's like, are you like an actor? You know, because you're so lively and happy and funny during your shows, but in person, not so much. Which is basically her way of saying you're friggin' boring in person.
You need to start juggling.
I'm going to start juggling. Whoa, look at me. Here's the hot dogs. No, seriously, though, they are great people. Best neighbors in the world.
Don't move.
You guys better not move. We're going to have some words.
Ava's crying.
Okay, so if you have to go, do you have some questions put aside just in case?
I have some super chats, and I have some questions, too.
So Shane Bruner is got a cornhole board. You know, we also call those bunghole boards. And it's funny, a lot of people thought that I didn't know what a bunghole actually was.
Yeah.
But it just sounds funnier when you say bunghole because it reminds me of Beavis and Butthead.
Cornholio.
I need teepee for my bunghole.
No, it's cornholio.
He needs teepee for his bunghole. All right. Shane Bruner says, I have a cornhole board set that I built out of hardwood veneered plywood, stuff from the big box store, nothing fancy. And he painted and finished it with lacquer. These were not left outside, but in a shed. They are only a few years old, but the top layer of plywood is starting to buckle around the edges. If you were going to build a set for yourself, what would be the most effective materials and finishing methods for such a project? Excuse me.
That's what you get with PM.
Yeah, baby.
You get all the burps.
I think even if you use that cheap plywood, one thing that would have gone a long way into helping the longevity of this piece would have been trim. It sounds like you didn't trim it out. If you leave the exposed plywood edge, you just got crisscross grain. There's a lot of end grain there. You're exposing the end grain of the veneer. You're just asking for problems, and you'll especially with cheap plywood, you have a real good shot at delamination, which is what you're experiencing there. So a good sort of insurance policy is to take some solid wood stock. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but a piece of solid wood across that end grain. Now you've got a nice layer of glue that's going to help seal up the fibers, and then you've got a piece of wood in front of that. So it's kind of a double layer of protection, and also prevents any sort of contact that might dent or cause everything to sort of prematurely delaminate, because you actually have a protective layer of wood on top of it. So I think that's probably, no matter what plywood you use, is probably the best way to go. Now, you could certainly use a higher quality plywood. Go to a lumber dealer and actually get a decent plywood. Most of the stuff at the big box store is kind of garbage, but it's a cornhole set. So it's like, you're not building like a high-end cabinet. Do you need, cabinet grade plywood for a bunghole set? So I think you could probably get away, just get the best sheets, the flattest sheets you can, and then trim them out. You trim them out, I think that's going to make a big difference.
Sorry, I was going to sneeze.
That's okay.
So somebody asked if anybody's looked at the Wayback Machine. My website's so old, it's not even in the Wayback Machine.
It predates archive.org and the Wayback Machine, doesn't it?
Yeah, I looked for it. It's not there.
I used to have an AOL website for my band.
Yeah.
And when they used to just they'd let you have a one-page thing.
Did you guys know he had a band?
You could change the background and stuff. And I made it through AOL, and it was garbage. Yeah. But yeah, they would let you make websites.
I had little midis that would play when you would go to my site.
It was awesome, Nicole. I wish you put those on our website now. Little MIDI songs. People would love that. Okay, Aaron Hargrave says, non-woodworking question. You might be humble enough not to admit that you've become a known name in the wide world of wood, joining the ranks of Schwarz and others. Seeing you in person threw me off as much as the time I randomly bumped into Bob freaking Saget.
That's awesome.
What's Bob Saget doing these days?
Cussing.
No, I know, he's always cussing. But what's he doing? Just random stand-up gigs?
Well, he did the Full House, but it's not them anymore. It's the girls.
Well, he did some almost cameos in there. I watched that. It was painful. Okay. If I was Barbara Walters, I'd probably ask something like, does having so many eyes on you become a pain especially with a big internet presence. Also, why is there not a painting of Matt named the Cremona Lisa yet? Those of you with Photoshop skills, I think you could probably make some magic happen.
You have been...
You've received your calling. You've been summoned. The Cremona Lisa.
Cremona, that's pretty cool.
Does it get annoying having eyes on me? I don't know. If I just turn the camera off, no more eyes are on me. That's not a problem. Hey, ran into a dude at Lowe's the other day.
Yeah?
You know, the guy that was going to give us tickets to the Irish Festival?
Oh, yeah.
I'm walking out of Lowe's, and he's driving by, and he's like, hey, the Wood Whisperer. I'm like... hey, what's up? You know, so it was pretty cool.
That is cool.
But you know what?
I would have liked to have gone to the Irish Festival too.
It's not like, I mean, I do meet people in situations where I don't anticipate it. So we've been, you know, recognized at the mall and things like that when we're with the kids.
It's cool.
It's really cool. If that happened every single time I was out,
it would be weird. It
might be a little weird and I might be uncomfortable with it, but it doesn't happen enough that I'm like, I'm such a celebrity, blah, blah, this sucks, you know, like, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful that there are people who know who the heck we are because that means we're doing something right.
Right.
So no, it's not a problem. And I guess, you know, there's a very big difference between, you know, Marc Spagnuolo and his internet celebrity and like Hollywood celebrity. Not quite the same thing, you know?
As much as Maha thinks you're acting, we're not acting.
No, they're not a professional actor. Okay, last one I have here is from Jeremy Paston. He says, so I'm a couple years behind you guys as far as the kids go, 3 years and 4 months. My oldest loves to help out, but the shop can be a dangerous place. What are your thoughts on kids in the shop? Obviously not looking for real parenting and instruction, just thoughts. You know, it's a tricky thing, but ultimately, you're the parent. Speaking of kids, one's creeping in here slowly. Creepily.
Mommy, let me in the bed.
I think when it comes to kids, like anything else, as the parent, there's no one more prepared to evaluate the child and decide when this kid is ready to touch something in the shop than you are. And every kid is different. Not everyone is going to be ready for this particular tool at a particular age. So I know, for instance, things that I might trust my son with in the kitchen, right? Certain types of scissors, certain knives. And over time, you start to understand, what would he do with a hammer? You know, what would he do with a drill?
If he had
one, you know, and then you could start to just work up to it and get a couple of pieces of scrap with some guidance. Here's how you hold the drill. Slowly but surely work them into things. But generally, I think your gut as a parent should, I hope it would be pretty good. Most of us, I think, could make pretty good decisions for our own kids. At this age, you know, 4 or 5 years old, power tools, other than maybe a handheld drill, no way. Not even... But again, that's my child. Maybe you have a gifted child with incredibly good reflexes. And is this all my questions here?
Yeah.
Okay. In those cases, that may be a situation where you feel okay with it. But again, I think it's just relying on knowing your child. Okay, that's all I have here. I'm going to look at some of the questions Nicole pulled to the side. So we already got Ben's. Tim Matlock, thank you for the super chat. Tim, appreciate that. I have a 1970s Craftsman 12-inch bandsaw and followed the setup video, but it still won't cut straight. Wondering what could cause this. Old blade, tires. You know, it's probably a good question for Mr. Snodgrass. Ultimately, with a older, smaller saw, yeah, there could be other things at play here, but identifying it from a distance without inspecting it would be tricky. Ultimately, that method is really... The Snodgrass method is really there to help you get your bearings, your guides set in the right position, get your blade as close as possible to running true. And even if you fall short, your blade will still cut straight. Let's clarify the difference here. It will cut straight. What it's not necessarily doing is cutting parallel to the slot. If, like, let's say you have a little miter slot on there, it may not be cutting perfect to that. So if you have a fence that's set to the slot and then you run a piece along that fence, you may find that it tracks in a different direction. It's still going straight, but it's not going in the right angle. Okay, and typically that's where you adjust for the drift. So if you've tried everything and you're confident that you've done everything you could, sure, maybe look at the tires. I don't know that that would make a big difference, but ultimately you're probably going to have to adjust that fence to account for whatever drift you're experiencing. Now, if you're still not able to make a good clean cut, maybe you're getting barreling in your blade where it's bowing in the middle of the cut, it's a different story. That could be a tension issue, could be a blade sharpness issue. A lot of things going on there, but ultimately, again, as long as you're cutting straight, you could typically make adjustments for that allow you to use your fence with the saw.
So Jason Bracey is in Land Lakes, Florida. So he's said, cheers from Land Lakes, Florida, before Irma blows us away.
Irma's a scary thing,
Holy moly, yes. If you are in Florida.
Talk about like the literal calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Not that it's calm there, but the weather. There's some scary stuff going on.
Yeah.
Tom, Tom Iovino.
Yeah. Tom's
What
tips.
he does is like, you guys might remember Tom's tips from Woodtalk and Tom's workbench. He does like emergency preparedness stuff like that.
Hurricane.
And man, this guy, he's busting his butt. I've been trying to pay attention to what he's doing on Facebook. But this is some really seriously scary stuff. So
hopefully if you're in that area,
you're in a safe place or have a place to go.
Or,
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, can you imagine? It's the scariest thing.
My aunt is in Jacksonville, and she said it because she's up north.
Did you have to go?
She's still standing.
I just can't imagine having to like board up your house, try to get everything off the floor, and go somewhere else and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, our hearts and thoughts are certainly with folks down south.
Well, it's like all the fires are going on. What is it? Northwest area. We even have some here in Colorado.
There's
too.
a lot of natural disaster craziness going on right now.
Crazy. Yeah. So
be thankful for what you have, people.
So okay, today's the 8th, right? Oh, we missed Ness G. Ness G did a super chat. Good day.
We're actually got about 3 minutes.
Okay.
If we're going to keep to our time.
Watching from the PM from from the AM. Oh, it's AM for her. Have a good show. Mom is tuned in with her. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Hi. Nice.
And then Jen Big got her stickers. Thank you, Jen.
Yay.
We already did Tim's question. David Price, I don't have a sanding machine. What makes them so useful, like that oscillating spindle or an oscillating belt sander? I've always been a hand sander or orbital sander user. Am I missing something?
I think edges might be something you're missing. If you are sanding narrow edges of legs, let's say you're doing a panel that has some kind of a profile or curve in it, hitting those with your random orbit sander, either you're rounding over the edges or you're really, really, really good. Because it's very difficult to sand a narrow edge with a random orbit sander, unless you have a really hard pad on it, and not cause a rounding over of that edge. So if you're using things like the belt sander, using things like the oscillating spindle sander, those are all held in a square orientation, square to the face or perpendicular to the face, and that gives you a nice true edge that maintains that 90-degree edge. That's just one of the use cases that I find those other sanders really helpful for. Stationary sanders like your belt sander, your oscillating belt sander, and like your disc sanders, those are not, at least for me, not as useful as some of the others, but I still, many, many times will go up to my stationary sanders and just use it for various things. It's just one of those things, once you have it and you know that it's there as a tool at your disposal, you might find a use for it. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for that spindle sander. That I can't find it.
Somebody's right there.
Right, but I don't.
It's funny.
It's like, it goes to the E-Club. On their website. Oh, there it is. There. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. Ness had asked for the link, so I'm going to put the link in.
Scroll down though. Does it say not available yet?
No, it's.
Okay.
Now
only $79.95.
It's on sale. It's on sale for $80.
Well, go get it.
Save $30.
Go get it, yo.
So I'm going to put this link in here, so you guys. Boop, 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 boop.
In the chat. There you go.
There it goes.
Nice.
Boom. We have a question from Terry Baltus. Marc and Nicole, if you... Battisti, sorry. I'm hurry.
Just make it up.
If you left Woodtalk, would it cease to exist or would it continue?
There is no Woodtalk without me. That is not an ego thing. That's a business ownership thing.
Yeah.
Woodtalk is mine. I suppose if I were ever so motivated, I could let it continue with 3 other hosts if I were maintaining some kind of control over it. But I would not just let it go and let other people take it over.
Right.
So my guess is if I were to leave Woodtalk, I think Woodtalk would go away.
Yeah. Let's see. Dave, thank you. Dave 57005. We love you too.
Oh, a lot of love. We love you.
The Wood Lab said, not much of a cider guy myself. Use this towards some beer next time.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Jim, right?
The Wood Lab.
Yeah.
Daniel Bennett, beginning woodworker here, just picked up a 2 horsepower plunge router. Do you have any good resources for learning to cut mortise, grooves, and roundovers?
Yeah, there's a site called thewoodwhisperer.com.
Yeah.
Lots of videos. I don't have anything specifically talking about those. I might have a couple of mortising videos.
You do
and stuff
have.
like
I just
that.
uploaded. It was in 2015 when you did those.
Yeah, so I think look in our techniques section on the Wood Whisperer, you'll find different things like that. But every project I've done probably at some point has like a roundover or something being applied via a router. There's really not a lot to it technique-wise, but it's definitely something, you know, see it in context of projects so you understand why you're doing those roundovers. There should be endless resources with regards to that because everyone kind of just does it as a final treatment on their projects. But as far as mortising goes, yeah, that's a good resource is our website. We've got a couple videos. And then Google, my friend. As soon as you start to Google some of this stuff, router cut mortises, you will find some examples to take a look at.
Let's see her. Got some in the Discord. M Brooks 05, traditional versus carbide lathe tools. Which do you prefer? How do you sharpen your traditional tools?
Okay. I started with traditional tools because I don't think I knew anything about carbide tools when I first started any turning. And you guys know I don't do a lot of turning, but what little I do. The tool we love the most, both Nicole and I, was an Ellsworth bowl gouge, a super flute bowl gouge.
I like that one.
Really nice tool, a little trickier to sharpen, and that goes into the answer about the sharpening question is we use the, is it the Wolverine jig? So it's basically an attachment to a regular slow speed grinder, and it has the Wolverine jig with the Varigrind attachment, I believe it's called. And this thing, as long as you get the distance set, and you can actually set a little, I've got a little board that my grinder is on with a mark on it, and I set the distance that it protrudes from the jig, drop it in, and then like within 30 seconds, I've got a fully sharpened super flute bowl gouge with the right profile. It's pretty awesome. So I think ultimately, we liked those traditional tools. They're very versatile, very powerful, but the carbide tools are so easy. They're so easy. And all you have to do to sharpen them is turn it 90 degrees and you get a fresh edge. So I can see an argument for both. I think if you really want to get into turning deep, and it's going to be like your thing, you really want to be a turner.
I'm going to go take care of our daughter.
Go for it.
Here's 2 questions right there.
Okay. You got to go for classic tools. And I'll make those my last 2.
Okay.
You got to go for classic traditional tools because, bye Nicole, thanks. Because you can get better results. A lot of times with the carbide, you're making compromises and sacrifices because you'll get a little more tear out. The finished cut is not as good, which means you have to do a lot more sanding, which can blunt some of your details. Obviously, you know, some people are really, really good with the carbide, but if you can master regular traditional turning tools, you can just make amazing crisp details and you're slicing instead of scraping. It's a very different operation. So again, if you're just getting into it, carbide is fine, but I think if you're gonna get serious about your turning at some point, you're probably gonna wanna go with traditional. All right, so a couple more questions here. I've seen, this is from the Hampshire Woodworker. Is that Scott Hampshire? Is that what he calls himself? I've seen several small boxes with floating paddles as a top. Normally, I wouldn't be concerned about this, but these boxes have an expansion gap filled with an accent strip. How do these boxes get away with the lack of a gap? They don't, Scott. The only way you can get away with it is if the piece is small enough and kept in a condition or, you know, like a decorative box would be, in a very controlled climate, indoors, then it just might not move that much. And so again, movement is a reflection of the amount of humidity in the air as well as the size of the panel. So if you're just talking about a small box maybe 4 or 6 inches, you're not going to get a whole lot of movement over that, even with normal fluctuations in humidity. Inside, if it's in a weather-controlled environment, you are insulated even more from things like humidity changes, so it's even less likely to move. But in terms of the rules of wood expansion, that is not a floating top. If there is a strip of material that takes up that gap, there's no gap anymore. It's a piece of wood, right? So that is breaking, quote unquote, breaking the wood movement rules. But you can sometimes get away with that. Small boxes, if you ever look around, small boxes, you can, I like to burp and talk at the same time. Small boxes are the place where you are going to see many wood movement rules broken, and broken without problems. And it's because of the small size, typically. Let's see, Josh Albrecht. How would you approach cutting the wedges of a trestle table project if you didn't have a bandsaw? Okay, so you're talking about the newer kitchen table that I made, the trestle table with the wedged through tenons. If I didn't have a bandsaw, all I would do is probably plane the strips down to the max thickness, right? Because I think they're like 5/8 of an inch thick, and then they taper down. That would be just the task for a hand tool. You don't need to remove a lot to create that taper. So I would just make myself a nice rectangle, 5/8 of an inch thick, chuck that thing up in the workbench, grab a hand plane and go to town, and just induce a taper with a hand tool. It actually works sometimes, believe it or not. Alrighty, let's see if I can grab one more question. Did Nicole pick any more? I don't think she did. Now I'm working on her computer. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. Okay. This is where it gets really boring. Hey, Nick Ferry's here. What do you know? We're amongst celebrities, folks. Everyone wave and say hi to Nick. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up, folks. Nicole's not here to throw any more questions at me, and I don't want to do that thing where I stare at a computer looking for questions. So thank you very much. Remember, the Guild sale is going on all weekend long, 30% off. Next week, we will have a new one on sale. And here's the cool thing. Last year, we did sales like this, but we didn't let anybody know what was going on sale when. We changed that this year. So if you are curious what's coming up, you're trying to budget, and you don't know whether you should pull the trigger because you're not sure if another project is coming in that you might be interested in, go to thewoodwhisperer.com/calendar, and we have all of the sale dates and the projects that are going to be put on sale on those dates in the calendar. So you should be able to scroll right through and just kind of plan ahead of time. We're going to roll right into the holiday season with this thing. So we don't want to take away from, you know, someone accused me of wanting to take away from the kids' gifts this year. And that's not true. Maybe a little bit. It depends. Depends on your outlook. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Again, we hope everybody in the Southeast is staying safe, and hopefully the damage is minimized. Some terrible stuff going on down there. And that's really about it. Thanks for watching. Patreon.com/woodwhisper if you want to help us out. Thanks to everybody who submitted questions, all you people. And I'm going to go pour this down the drain because this was crap, gotta say. Yeah, you actually don't know what's going on below here. So, see, no, I'm just kidding. I am wearing pants.